No, it's been great. Everyone's so eager to talk about this that it's
We haven't
fun.
we haven't had a chance for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're good at
We're experienced. Well, prior to FDF and what led up to it, and then I'd like to hear about your experience with researching dance, and then your kind of your overall feelings and about the people and the relationships you've had, kind of versus just history, because I think we've kind
Well,
of got that.
if we start with the research end of it, I didn't know there was a separate Greek world, really. In the beginning, I never thought of it until I came into contact with a few Greek people.
Oh, excuse me. And had you been still interested in Greek music that whole time? From the time you just kind of you were busy being married.
That was all blank, like a desert.
Okay.
And when I got into USC is when I revived my interest in Greece.
And when did you get interested? Kind of tell me about the early Greek dancing
That I saw
that you saw and that you did, and how
was nightclub dancing. I found that I didn't have any trouble picking it up. I got interested in listening to Greek music. I had these guys around, a couple of boyfriends who were Greek, and so we used to listen to music and talk about it. Most of them were from Cyprus, that I remember. The majority were from Cyprus at that time in the university. And I had a nice boyfriend, Greek guy, and he used to take Kitty and my daughter and myself out. And we would go on trips to the desert and so forth. And so it was a very nice few years like that. It was authentic for nightclub type dancing. I was interested in pushing it farther. And I got a chance to go on a fellowship, or whatever they call it, to Greece, and with Dr. Sotirios Chanis, who was an ethnomusicologist in the area. And he and I had contact. I did some work for him in making out research cards.
Oh, okay.
And so when he planned a trip to Greece, when he got the money from the university, and he said, what would be a good place to go? And I said, how about Samothraki? Why? Because nothing was heard of from Samothraki. It was a big island, and there was no music from it. There was nothing from it. So he said, that's a great idea, we'll go to Samothraki. And we did, with a group of UCLA students. Well, I was also a middle-aged woman. See, I'm going to be 91 on Friday.
My goodness.
And so, I really wasn't too concerned about being irresistible to a lot of people. And everybody, most of the people were very eager to be helpful. There was a fellow from Thrace who showed me Thracian dancing steps, and he was a good dancer. And that was very interesting. Then he invited me to come back to his village. And so we made the trip to his village. I started at his church, at Dr. Chanis's church, and taught the Greek community there in St. Catherine's.
Oh, in Redondo Beach?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
So, and a couple of other places. So I began to get my, feel more confident in doing this. And everybody was very cooperative. And of course, they thought it was pretty funny to have a Jewish lady out teaching them Greek dancing in the Greek churches. But we just had a good time with it. I have nice pictures of it. And I began to feel my oats and that I was capable of teaching, because I was not a teacher. I was a psychiatric social worker.
Had you ever taught anything?
No,
And you didn't really have a dance background either.
and I didn't have a dance background, but I knew the dances. And you know, when you're caring about something, it really cements into you.
Right. And you wanted to share it with
And
everybody.
I wanted to share. Well, I was very flattered that the Greek church wanted me.
Yeah, I think that's pretty amazing.
And I used to drive because I was working all this time in Los Angeles. I used to make arrangements for a babysitter, for a kid sitter for my daughter. And I would put on I'd take off my clothes and put on the costume while I was driving down to the church. I remember that.
So you wore a costume to teach?
I did, part of costume
Sure.
so that they would get interested in it and certain parts that I wanted to discuss with them. But they were very good. They picked up, of course, and they were all Greek, and they thought it was a great idea to have Greek dancing taught. And so it was very stimulating and very supportive of me. Mm-hmm. Really, I don't know if I would have done it if it wasn't. It would have been too hard.
Yeah.
So anyway, that went on for years. And then I did some stuff at the other, like the Pasadena churches and so forth. I got into the Folk Dance Federation things, and took part in that. And before I knew it, I was, it was familiar stuff. And we didn't charge much, but it was such an exciting adventure.
Did your daughter go with you when you were...
When she was younger, yes. Of course, I remember at about 10, 12 years old, she was doing the dances with the kids. Well, it was when I could get somebody responsible to stay in the house with my daughter, and she was probably 12, that I was able to go for a longer period. And I studied in certain regions that where we didn't have any dance information. So I would go up to Thrace, to remote places like Vivimortico, and learn what they had to show me there. And you see, was not, Greek dancing wasn't even taught in the schools in a lot of places.
In Greece.
In Greece. So now they're everywhere. But of course that popularity began, and Never on Sunday was a very great push for the popularity.
Was the movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. On both sides of the ocean. But I would go into the village, but my first visits were with Dr. Chinese and the students.
Oh, so you were just picking up Greek as you traveled, or were
I
you
traveled to
studying?
certain areas where we didn't know any dances.
That's amazing.
And it wasn't easy because, I was alone. And, but once we made the connection through dance, it was beautiful. It just expanded like that. And people were eager to show me dance steps.
Well, let's go to how you got involved with FDF.
Okay, I'm not even sure. Not even sure how I got into it, because I was not, after all, a member of the church.
Right.
And who were the people that brought me in is what I don't remember. See, and I was not married.
No.
I was widowed at that point. So how the hell did I get into the church thing? I don't even know. All I know is that gradually that was where the dancing was, and that's where I was.
And I read, and I couldn't find it this afternoon, but there was a quote from you that said when you were judging, you didn't care about the competition so much. You cared about that the dances were accurate.
And that I think is true for the girls outside also. Yeah.
That wasn't
That
what was-
it should not accurate so much, because there's no such thing as an accurate Greek dance. There are Greek dances and there are things that look like phonies. And I wanted to get, of course, I went to the villages and learned what I could and stayed in a village and took my notes from there. And that's really was moving experience.
Oh, I'm sure it was. And then to come back and share that here.
Well, that was the easiest part because the people wanted to know. But to go into a community and want to know about the dance, their dances, that was their jewel. And I was going to do something with it, and they hadn't the hell of a way of knowing whether I would screw it up or make it modern.
But they helped you.
But
Well, they more than helped you.
they more than helped me. They took it as part of their dignity and honor to do it. And this is what brought me to tears many times. But there was something in the way the Greek people felt about their culture that moved me deeply. And also, my father was from Wales, and as much as he told me, I could never get enough of what life was like in Wales. By the time I was ready to, he died when I was 12. So by the time I was able to get there, I was much older. But he had 9 brothers and 2 sisters. And I knew 2 of his brothers. 3 of his brothers, actually. The ones who came to America. And the one who came over from Greece. From Wales.
Yeah.
And also, of course, I was pretty stimulated, and as my kid got older, it was easier to make arrangements.
Oh, sure. For all those things.
Okay, when I got connected to the community out here, somehow I got tied in, I guess, through Chinese to the to the Folk Dance Federation.
Oh, okay.
And somebody must have pulled me into it because I don't remember how I got it. So many things happened. I have no idea how I got in or who brought me in, as a matter of fact. And I think particularly because I started off with 2 years in bed with rheumatic heart disease, that I was determined I would get out and do something. And I was 5 and 6 during that episode. Although I was always scared because I came from a minority group. It was not a popular thing to be. Jews were ridiculed. And fortunately, I think the Greeks were much more liberal about it. Maybe that was one of the things that was attractive, although I'm not conscious of it. Of course, it was very exciting to be chosen as a judge. And I was sure I didn't know enough to warrant that honor, but I learned as quickly as I could. And I had seen more dances in their original than many people, because I'd been in the villages and had asked to show me how.
Were you a tough judge because of that?
No, I was a tender judge. Because I appreciated so much those kids who got up and tried to do something that their teachers told them to do in the churches. And I thought it was so wonderful that they did. And some of them took to it naturally. For some, they were clomping along out of the steps, but they were there and wanting to contribute, wanting to be part of it. And it was very stimulating, very lovable. I think I was a judge for at least over 20 years. And I was very sorry not to be.
Why did you stop?
I didn't resign. I think part of it was that the new Metropolitan. See, when you've heard people speak tenderly of Bishop Anthony.
Yes.
Yes. And he was wonderful. He used to come and sit with us judges and sometimes sit right beside me and ask me questions about it. Louise, why do they do this and that? And he had so much love for the experience that they were going through. And it was inspiring. That's the word I want.
Mm-hmm.
He had a different approach to many things, and I didn't have that same relationship built. And he had his own way of doing things. And so one of the things he wanted is get the non-Greeks out. I probably didn't say it that way, but that was the thing that happened. And so
get the non-Greeks out of the organization, or just?
I don't know, but I just knew that as a result, he wanted it to be an all-Greek environment. And that's okay. I mean, you could see why he would do it. Probably the local rabbis would do the same thing, or the Catholic priests. But for me, of course, it was a great loss because it was one of the things I was so happy about. So anyway, that was certainly something. He wanted it to be under control is the word. That's what I want.
So you didn't resign. You were asked to?
I was left out. And that was hurtful for me. Of course. But as you can see with Peter, we kept a good relationship, and I admire him very much. I admire him for courage, first of all. He was the one with the courage. And in some ways we talked a similar language. I don't mean professionally, of course. What I mean is in feelings about how things were going. And so it wasn't as though it was a shallow relationship. I respected him very highly. He is a mover. And I respected that a lot. And he's also been very nice to us. Mm-hmm. So when he phoned, I was glad to hear from him. And I remember when our friend Popi in Kalimnos was our connection. When Popi Mavru, who was the head of the Legion in Kalimnos, that started a long relationship, I think over 30 years.
Wow.
And so we're still close friends and in touch and talk on the phone together. But we used to go back there and spend time with them. And Kalimnos you'll see the painting on the wall from Kalimnos, the two paintings, were done by a cousin of hers who gave it as a memento for me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, there were very loving relationships. I found a kind of lovingness, in quotation marks, that I had never experienced before.
Greek. It looks
Well,
very difficult.
I don't know. I guess when you want to do something enough, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started learning Greek. We had a few lessons from a fellow, God rest his soul, who was a wonderful young teacher from Thessaloniki, and who died young here.
Oh.
And it was very, very sad because he was a brilliant guy. He taught well, and he had his little Greek group that we were in and that we learned from. He was a loss. I mean, it was a loss for us.
What?
I was teaching a class in dance in Los Angeles, and I said something about, oh, I know I had been in Greece and I came back, and I was going to teach then for a few sessions. And I got them in line for a tsamiko. And tsamiko is a strong man's dance from Peloponnesus. And so I was saying, you have to think of yourself as having a weapon in your hand and killing Turks. And everybody bursts out laughing.
He's a Turk.
Yeah. So that was how we got connected.
He didn't tell me that.
No.
I like that part.
Anyway, there are lots of what I think of as very funny things, and a lot of loving and good humor things that have gone on in the community. I've been very blessed with it. I learned to say that from Peter, by the way.
That you've been blessed?
That I've been blessed. Yes. Peter was the one who taught me that unconsciously, just because he used it. And I that's the best way I can put this. I've been very blessed to have these connections. And to enrich my vocabulary, to enrich my knowledge, and to enrich my social environment.
Oh, yeah. It's wonderful.
Just terrific. So I'm glad I can read a Greek book now.